Screencast for Chapter 2, Section 1. We're switching gears here from waves to now moving to how do we talk about motion? How do we describe motion in physics? There's all kinds of motion. The story begins with motion diagrams. Motion diagrams are essentially a series of consecutive pictures of motion. So for example, this is a motion diagram of a runner. The next step is we create what's called a particle model from the motion diagram. In a particle model, you just replace the object with a point. So in a sense, you've already seen this because that's what the ticker tape lab did. It created a particle models of the motion of your car. One thing to remember that's not pointed out here in the book is that in order to be complete, the particle model needs to label where the motion began. In other words, just looking at the black dots, they're evenly spaced, but we can't tell is the runner moving from left to right or from right to left. Well, clearly from the picture, they're moving from left to right. So what we would do is we would place a t=0 at this dot to indicate that's where time begins, and then we know that the motion is from left to right. That was a pretty short section. Let's just have a quick look at the self-check to see if it makes sense to you. What must you be able to answer to describe an object's motion? Well, you need to know where and when. The time and the location to describe motion. Which of these does not represent the path of motion of an object? Well, objects can go in curves and circles and straight lines, but we don't represent them with dotted lines. In this section, in this chapter 2 and 3 here, we're going to focus on motion in a straight line and come back to these other kinds of motion later in the semester. A motion diagram is a series of images of a moving object that records its position after every equal time interval. It doesn't matter what the time interval is, it just has to be equal. So if you look at the dots and they're getting farther apart, you know, for example, the object's moving faster. Replacing an object in a motion diagram with a single point is called the particle model. When an object is in motion, its blank must change. Well, if it's moving, its position must change. That's the self-check. I hope this has been a useful screencast. See you in class.